What is up, everybody? As you have noticed, today, April 28th, we seem to have some new Q posts. The top ones here are familiar. The silent war continues. Speaking of the war behind the scenes that they are currently engaged in, infiltration instead of invasion, which is so prominent at the moment. You keep seeing key people starting to be like, well, I don't know, guys. I like Trump, but, well, if that's the case, then why do you have a Q on your freaking profile? You know, it's called a concern troll. They come in, they gain people's trust, and then they just start attacking people on your own side. Like there was a certain someone I was listening to, I was enjoying about a year ago, who was funny and cool and stuff and made a lot of great points. But then at one point I realized, I was like, the only people he's attacking are right-wing journalists. And granted, trust me, there are a lot of them that I don't trust myself. Look at how Fox News is all of a sudden starting to really turn. They've been starting to turn ever since before the 2016 election. But all of a sudden, it looks like a call to arms, like the network is really starting to push in another direction. So infiltration instead of invasion. This is why you infiltrate things. This is a part of the reason why you have plants that have been there for 10, 15 years. You know, I'm not thinking of anyone specific at Fox when I say that, but just in general, you have different people who will show their true colors. Yeah, especially, I'm sure there'll be some that'll hold out, but I imagine around late August, September, you're going to see a lot of them just suddenly start breeding a little seeds of doubt. Like, I still support Trump, but this, and this really concern me. You know, I guarantee you, end of August, September, October-ish, that's when right at that last little push for the White House, you're going to see just some seeds of doubt being pushed. I mean, some people are probably going to flip right out, but there are some people who really, they just can't, or else it's just done for them. So they won't flip, but they'll probably start sowing little seeds of doubt. You watch. And that's what this is, information warfare. Everyone right now on every side, if you just take a step back and watch it, they are just throwing out everyone's trying to control the narrative and twist the narrative. And they're trying to keep you from just actual data. Here's the actual statistical data of this, statistical data of that. No one wants you to look at that. They want to take the information first and just warp it and manipulate it to try and prove their narrative. And it's pulling people in a lot of different directions right now. I'm just watching it from afar. It's interesting. But you see here, how does China communicate secure with DNC leaders? How does Soros communicate secure with DNC leaders? Now, I know a little while back they were going over how they were using the Xbox chat logs. And then if you remember, all of a sudden Xbox had a big shutdown after that was called out, probably trying to clean it up before someone figures out how to get into it or hack it. Now, then another thing they had saying with the Google email draft. So you have like an email that everyone knows the password to, and you just leave an ongoing conversation in your draft. So it's never sent through the wire and can't technically be traced, but you guys can all constantly communicate with that. Now, if you move down, you have 3993. And this one says, remember this important fact. Adam Schiff is part of the Gang of Eight, which is an intel gang. It will become critical once Gang of Eight material is declassified. Oh, okay. So that'll be good to just keep in the back of your mind. This is logical question. If Adam Schiff knew everything he's investigating and stating publicly to be knowingly false, which is clearly disinformation, why then would he take the course of actions? Ongoing? Did Adam Schiff purposely deceive the American public thinking the Gang of Eight material plus other classified documentation would never reach the public domain? Yeah, I would imagine so. Adam Schiff memo, false. If Adam Schiff was privy to Gang of Eight classified material, would he not know the same facts, truth, as Nunes? Think Nunes memo versus Schiff. Knowingly. What if it was coordinated? If this was all coordinated, then that's an absolute criminal conspiracy against the United States of America. That's pretty bad. And really, it is starting to seem like a lot of these strings are being pulled from overseas, straight from Europe. So at what point are some of these people to be considered foreign infiltrators? Infiltration instead of invasion. That's exactly how they took over our Congress. That is exactly how they have taken over this country. And we are seeing them fighting back now. Now, as someone has finally challenged them after all these years, this is the ugly fight back, the silent war, which is pretty much spilled into the public. But I'm sure there's a lot of things that we're not seeing. Now, if you come down here This is a perfect illustration of what the Mueller report was, what this 2-year bloated investigation was. It says here, Mueller designed to take in evidence needed to, quote, expose deep state, DOJ block Mueller evidence ongoing investigation. And if it continues, that this was designed to limit POTUS's ability to maneuver. Absolutely, it tied up a lot of aspects of him and what he wanted to do, what his administration was trying to do. It was designed to stall for time until midterm elections to terminate all House and Senate ongoing investigations. Interesting. It was designed to safeguard the Democratic Party base false narrative Russia collusion. POTUS cheated, he's evil, the sky is falling, in an effort to divide and mobilize for future protests, riots, threats, violence, false flags, etc. So this is a great point they're making here, that part of the ongoing Russian collusion for 2 straight years, they were able to report Russia collusion, a story after story after story, whether it become Rachel Maddow, Anderson Cooper, every one of them, on and on. So it was like a weapon. They were able to wield this as a weapon to further rip the divide in this country, because it infuriated people who knew it was obvious garbage, and it infuriated people who bought it hook, line, and sinker. You still, to this day, I still see, the whole report came out and said that it was nothing. I mean, he even tried to pin it on like a couple internet trolls. It was embarrassing. There are still, to this day, people saying, well, that's because he works for Putin, or that's because he's with Russia. That's like, dude, man, it's concerning. It's more than concerning. So that is a great point, how it was used as a weapon. Right here, it reiterates that it was designed to provide fake news with ammunition to sway public opinion, obstruct foreign and domestic agenda, fuel impeachment removal talk, and fuel anti-POTUS division, prevent unity. So we can't unite. Like, where we go one, we go all. We can unite as a whole group of free thinkers who want to be free again. But this prevents it. They were able to use this to completely drive the rift even further than what Barack Obama had done, and that's saying a lot. Here it says that it was designed to demonstrate to foreign players that the old guard still pulls the strings. So this was also a message to the world, to show the rest of the world that they're still in charge. The United States branch of the world government is still intact, and we're basically just going to harass this guy and enrage half the country against him until it's over. Now, a byfactor of that was that it mobilized the Democratic Party for a midterm vote win, because people were still, everyone's asleep during the midterms. So sometimes, who even freaking remembers the president 2 years in? Usually we all go back to our normal lives and watching football and watching different, shows and all these distractions we have, and they're just coasting, doing whatever they want by midterms. But not this time. This time they had just kept the ball in the air. They just kept that hatred going and kept it going and kept it going and kept it going. But people were so fried that they went out in droves. Now you add that to all the voter fraud, and they won in the midterms. Now, it was also designed to push the Democratic Party backers to donate. So don't lose your faith. Keep donating in the Democratic Party. It was designed as a public outcry excuse should criminal charges be brought against them. Or we're being politically attacked because of Mueller. That's a really good point, too. And now you can use this as a defense. Meanwhile, so it's okay for them to politically attack. That's the biggest attack of all time. 2 years, one of the most expensive investigations ever, with the most assets and so many things, everything thrown into the pot. But that's fine. So the news is fake, no crap, and the war is real. So, which brings us to this, part of the good guys. Now, here's a good maneuver for the war. This breaks down the FBI chain of command for the mid-year investigation. So you had Comey, right? His chief of staff was Rubicki. Under him, you had the deputy director, Andrew McCabe, and Mark Giuliano. They were connected to special counsel Lisa Page. Under him, he had the NSB EAD, Michael Steinbach, John Giacalone. Under them, you had pre-staff, Randy Coleman. Under them, you had the lead agent, Stroke. Also under McCabe, you had Jim Baker. Under him was Trisha Anderson. So this was the head of the FBI that was giving the FBI a bad name at this point and doing all this salacious stuff. And they have all been fired. If you come down here, Just goes through them all. Fired. Rybicki fired. McCabe fired. Comey fired. Baker, Priestap, Strzok, Page, Corton, Campbell, Steinbach, Giacalone, Turgle, Bowser, Anderson, Coleman, all fired. If you come up here, the FBI chain of command mid-year investigation, HRC email. I'm not sure which email they're pointing to at this point, but it does remind me of this one, right from April of 2015 when she was just starting her campaign for president, where all these people were invited to a dinner at John Podesta's. And that's not fraternization. That's not a conflict of interest that all these news reporters are having private dinners with your chief of staff. Talking ABC, AP, Bloomberg, BuzzFeed, CBS, CNBC, CNN, Huffington Post, who declined, I guess because they're in Panama, but they were still invited. LA Times, McClathy, MSNBC, National Journal, NBC, NPR, New York Times, Politico, Reuters, The Hill, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. Every single one of these media outlets should be banned from covering politics after this. So not only did they have the FBI, they had the Mueller investigation, they had the complete arm of the media, and look what they did with the chain of command. They went after Flynn, who seems like, oh, thank the Lord, seems like he is about to be completely exonerated. You have Roger Stone, who's in jail right now. Yet Papadopoulos had to spend, I think, a day in jail. Manafort had to go in jail. This is the weaponization they were able to use. And now General Flynn is about to get his just desserts, thankfully, who actually made his first post in about 3 years since 1 month before the Q drop started. Interesting that he stopped posting right before the Q drop started. And now he finally posted this, his declaration. And this goes through how he was set up, how they set him up, and how on Inauguration Day he entered office as the president's national security advisor, and that 4 days later, they even wait a week, Deputy Director McCabe called and asked if he would meet a couple FBI agents at the White House. This just goes through how they all set him up. It says he believes he was being honest with them to the best of his recollection. Showing here how the news seemed to be in on it. All of a sudden, the news just has all this information that they shouldn't have. Well, we say now that they have a straight line to Washington. Unfortunately, he was forced to resign only after 1 month as National Security Advisor, which is a friggin' crime. Thought this was interesting, where he says, at one of my first meetings with Mr. Kellner and Mr. Anthony, they asked me if I, quote, had anything on President Trump, as it would provide much more leverage with the government. To which obviously he told them from the beginning that he was unaware of President Trump doing anything wrong. So they were fishing right off the bat. They were harassing people surrounding President Trump and fishing for information. No, you shouldn't be looking for stuff out of thin air. If you see something that's suspicious, okay, maybe we'll investigate that. But just trying to invent something, whose side are they on? This is people who work for the United States government going to war with the president right out of the gate. And just willing to, and to do it, they were just willing to hurt anyone, hurt their families, saying he had to put a house on the market just to help pay his freaking legal bills. And it's just showing he's had a fight and fighting. He's still been fighting this to this day, this ridiculous garbage that they've been trying to put on this man, with threats against him, his son, long-term prison sentences. This is egregious. And so this is just going through everything that happened, how it went down, and it's just a joke. But it's a great recap of everything that him and his family have had to go through, and it's definitely worth a read. It's on his Twitter right now. So many people have been hurt by this witch hunt. It is so criminal what has gone down. Papadopoulos, they just trying to give him basically threw 10 grand at him while he was overseas, that he was smart enough to leave with his lawyer in Greece, that when he came back, all of a sudden, once he was back in America, he just got searched for no reason because they were looking for that 10 grand. That was a plant that they were going to say, oh, he's taking campaign bribes or whatever. Guaranteed, but they weren't able to get him on that. But they still persisted, and they were able to get him for something else. Roger Stone just got over 3 years in prison. That's despite one of his jurors being outed as, here you go, she was running for Congress at one point. Here's her with Donna Brazile. Here's her retweeting anti-Roger Stone tweets. before she was a juror, someone who was clearly out to get him, which you were not supposed to have on a jury. She even posted a fist and 2 hearts on the day he was convicted. But doesn't matter. 40 months, 3 years and 4 months he got, which is a long, long time. But these firings are at least a good sign that a lot of this is slowly but surely being undercut, because these people, they're not good people, which is why I think it was so important to get them another 4 years. If you can get Trump in for another 4 years, we have to go out and vote. I think if they've done this much damage while he's still got to worry about re-election as a lame duck president, oh man, forget about it. But now we come down to here, and this was the first thing Q posted today. 3 American flags. What a gorgeous sight. But something interesting is that when you trace this picture back, it brings you to this meeting with Congressman Micah Curie, who curiously lost his re-election right after this, talking about the TARP bailouts and how they were meant to help regular people, but really you have big entities, like the banks, who have pretty much shown themselves to just be taking advantage of it.
Today we joined together as a caucus to call to action to ensure that corporations that have taken taxpayers' dollars to stabilize their companies no longer get away with the deceitful practice of excessive executive compensation through perks like private jet fees and multi-million-dollar bonus while attempting to circumvent restrictions placed on executive compensation. So many of these financial firms and banks were on the brink of economic collapse until the government stepped in to bail them out and rescue them. Now, only a year later, we are seeing the same executives who came before Congress, hat in hand, receive bonuses that are even higher than they used to before the TARP was ever passed. Not a single person here today can say that they have never been given a hard time or hit with a frivolous charge by a bank or a credit card company. They are nickel and diming the American taxpayer and small business instead of helping them prosper, which was the intent of the TARP legislation.
Now, what does that remind you of? What was Trump just talking about? How places like Harvard are taking advantage of these loans. Now, the way the loans, from what I understand, are set up for small businesses, if you take this loan and you use it to pay your employees during this shutdown, then you won't have to pay it back. But if it's not being used for that, then eventually you do have to, then it becomes a loan and you do have to pay it back. Well, he's saying someone like Harvard has a $40 billion endowment. Why are they even getting this in the first place? But either way, even if they do need it right now, this place gets so much money, he's saying they got to pay it back.
I wanted to follow up on, you said about the small business program, Harvard's going to pay the money back. How confident are you that you can claw back money from places like Harvard?
I'm going to have to look. I don't like when Harvard, that has, I think, a $40 billion endowment or some incredible amount of money, that Harvard gets this money. Harvard should pay that money back. I want Harvard to pay the money back, okay? And if they won't do that, then we won't do something else. They have to pay it back. I don't like it. I don't like it. This is meant for workers. This isn't meant for one of the richest institutions, not only far beyond schools, in the world.
All right, this was made for workers, not one of the wealthiest institutions in the world, which is curiously exactly what Senator Curie was saying right here, which is what this Q drop just led us to. So now if you come up here and see that Q actually made a bunch of new posts while I was recording this. You see here he shares a post from last December that was asking if the same evidence that was being used to free Flynn was also currently being used to indict others, grand jury style. Now, if you remember, this is around the time that we had found out that Durham was actually doing an investigation on the investigators on Spygate and all that. So that is very promising. This is talking about the FISA that was showing that they knew the Steele dossier was fake. They had been warned, they knew it themselves, and they purposely lied to the FISA court. And then it says, watch what happens next. Well, it looks like we're just about there regarding Flynn and the prospect of him being exonerated. Which brings us to the next post, which is another one showing. Now, this is interesting. Now, this is showing, like we were talking about before, how they were using Xbox Live, how they were using Google Draft emails, and how they were using games like this. How to select bad actors, attempt comms without signet collection, Rebellion or Empire, private, invite only, factions, dark over light. So this is showing that they were using this game, Star Wars Commander, to do the same thing. I guess private invite, private groups, and then they were just using it for comms. And look at here. We have come to the decision to shut down Star Wars Commander on June 12, 2020. As of March 13th, 2020, all in-game purchases have been suspended. Okay, so now look at the dates. You have Q calling it out in November, right? And if you come here, what happened in February? Just a couple months later, George Soros invests $45 million into Activision Blizzard. All right, they're on the move. All right, that one got outed. Star Wars Commander got outed in November. February 14th, George Soros puts $45 million into Activision Blizzard. The very next month, they start shutting down Star Wars Commander. Going to be shut down for good in June. So they jump ship, and they're going to have to go somewhere else because now this is known too. It's only a matter of time before the White Hats can get into that one. Now, if you backtrack to 4001, all of a sudden, Twitter Sport, we're having some trouble with our direct messaging right now. If you may not be getting notifications as seen, and that's at 7:57. Only 20 minutes after Q posted, how does Soros communicate with DNC leaders and how does China communicate with DNC leaders? I guess we have one of our answers right here. Now, to jump ahead to 4004, Q was showing an infographic that Anons had put together showing that at least these 3 shootings in 2018 all seem to correlate exactly with the Star Commander chat logs going down for those days. And Q asks, why would in-game chat be disabled during FF events? And someone answers up here, just like you, they go silent during ops. As to which he answers, close. And then he posts this chat link that came out in 2017. And I forget where this was leaked from, but this is believed to be, I guess, FBI. It's just high-ranking people. Because in this chat log, and this is a great example of all these comms, is the night before Mueller is appointed, and this is them talking about it. And now, just for a little explanation on the names for people who don't watch Star Wars, Count Dooku is a good Jedi who turned bad. Palpatine is the name of the Emperor in Star Wars. So when I hear Palpatine's revenge, that makes me think Obama's revenge. And I'll show you in a second why I make a correlation between Emperor and Obama. The only other possible Star Wars name is Roger. That's where the droids, they always say Roger, Roger. So this could be maybe be a low-level person. Huck, the only thing I could think of is maybe Huck Finn. Not sure if that jumps out at anyone. But this right here is what's most intriguing to me. Severus. Who was the first African emperor of Rome? Septimus Severus. Does that mean this is Obama, a.k.a. the first African-American president of the United States? Septimus Severus, the first African emperor of Rome? So anyway, keeping that in mind, Dooku joins and says that Rod Rosenstein isn't taking shit, and he knows our friends have stuff on him. So it looks like they're blackmailing Rod Rosenstein here, which is how they control everyone. We know that. Dooku then says, I'm hearing Mueller, maybe by the end of the week. And Severus says, hearing that too, White House will be blindsided. Let's put Mike Flynn back in the news. Can have S draw up the memo on Turkey with Erdogan thugs beating protesters in the streets. It fits the news cycle, and I'm sure we need more memos down the road. Good practice. So then they keep talking back and forth, and at the end, someone says, Roger, any update on Camp Eagle? Now, Eagle is President Clinton, so I imagine it's talking about the Clinton camp. And they're saying, don't expect much from him. He's been out far too long. So I guess that's saying Bill Clinton's out of it. So then it says, just stall them. Robert Mueller is happening tonight, so they'll have plenty to cover. Holy crap, that's quicker than I thought. So this is talking about Mueller being put on. And if you look here at Where We Go One, We Go All SATX status, he points out that May 17th, watch, the Turkish president's bodyguards beat up U.S. protesters after he met with Trump. And here they are saying that they're going to put that in the news. And then here it says, here in Mueller, maybe by the end of the week, but by the end of this conversation, they said, holy crap, it's happening tonight. And of course, May 18th, Deputy U.S. Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appoints former FBI Director Robert Mueller as special counsel overseeing the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election campaign. And also, they had said, let's put General Flynn back in the news, and look who's back in the news a couple days later, Michael Flynn. All right, so this is how they coordinate stuff. And here you go. This tweet says it all. My campaign for president was conclusively spied on. Nothing like this has ever happened in American politics. A really bad situation. Treason means long jail sentences. And this was treason. Be ready. Which brings us to the final Q post, at least for right now. It's this statement by Henry Kissinger, which talks about a big scare event where everyone will be willing to relinquish their freedoms and nationalism to become a one world government. And then he links this tweet from Mayor de Blasio. It says, my message to the Jewish community and all communities is this simple. The time for warnings has passed. I have instructed the NYPD to proceed immediately to summons or at least arrest those who gather in large groups. This is about stopping disease and saving lives, period. So this goes along with what you've been seeing. I mean, not too much, but there's been some concerning cases where, people are getting arrested on the friggin' playgrounds, or, you're arresting like parents with their kids on the beach. And what, now they're going to go out and start rounding up Jews? Warren Wilhelm, you're going to round up your own people? They are definitely flexing their power with this lockdown, and it's not going unnoticed. If you guys think this is going to happen whenever you want to shut down the public, I don't think so. This is leaving a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And how is it that he's here talking about having people arrested simply for leaving their house, yet well into March, he was saying stuff like this?
If you're under 50 and you're healthy, which is most New Yorkers, there's very little threat here. This disease, even if you were to get it, basically acts like a common cold or flu. And transmission is not that easy. I think there's been a misperception that coronavirus hangs in the air waiting to catch you. No, it takes direct person-to-person contact. So what I'm finding is New Yorkers are pretty tough, and they're listening, and they're making adjustments. But our schools are running. And we've said, even if, God forbid, we found a case in a school, we're not shutting down all our schools. We cannot shut down because of undue fear.
But QS, why do they want you locked inside? They want you to go stir crazy. Why do they want the public? Why do they want you to panic? That's how they lead everyone around by their nose. Why do they want you to live in fear? It is just so, people are so much easier to control in a state of fear. And that goes back to the MK Ultra, where they throw screams at you while flashing images. They want your brain to lock in, because when you go into survival mode, your senses are heightened and you take so much more in. So that's just something that they had toyed around with. And here they have it. You are in constant fear right now. Every false narrative they can implant about Trump is twice as likely to stick. Why is the media banning anyone who challenges the narrative? It's bad for business. It breaks down this. This has everything to do with the election. Who benefits most? Just look who is hooked up with who. It's logical thinking. All assets have been deployed. Absolutely. This is the rollout. And they will try to win by any means necessary. This is going to be a crazy summer. And you know what? It's going to be damn worth it. Because this guy deserves a second term. And I'll leave you with this. The First Lady's tweet from April 23rd. And by the way, it was just her birthday the other day on the 26th. So happy birthday, Melania. But here she said, hello, children. While you stay at home to keep yourselves and others healthy, you can practice your skills with this Be Best word search and other activities. So pretty cool. I used to love word searches. But if you come down here, what does it say? Think mirror. Q strong. Oh, man. And then if you come up here, it says Q Axe. So Q Axe, Q strong from our First Lady, where we go one, we go all.